Welcome to this explainer. We're diving straight into something absolutely fascinating today. We're breaking down the cutting edge of what it takes to be a high-performance content creator in 2026. You see, the digital landscape is moving incredibly fast, and the tools we have now, everything from AI to hyper-precise algorithms, are literally more powerful than ever. But here's the real secret. Thriving right now isn't just about mastering the tech. It's actually about syncing your internal biological studio with your external digital studio.
So I want you to ask yourself a somewhat weird question. What do Andrew Huberman's morning routine and 2026 TikTok algorithms actually have in common? On the surface, I know, they seem completely unrelated, right? One is all about neurobiology and the other is just lines of code. But as we're going to see throughout this explainer, biological hacks and algorithm hacks are essentially two sides of the exact same coin. Because at the end of the day, they're both systems built entirely on attention, retention, and energy.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Optimizing your internal clock. 2. Morning exercise and caffeine. 3. Setting the visual stage. 4. Mastering pattern interrupts. And 5. Driving action with CTAs.
Section 1. Optimizing your internal clock, the biological baseline.
Let's start right at the foundation, that biological baseline. Because high-performance creation, it doesn't actually start when you hit the record button. It begins the exact moment you wake up. It all comes down to your circadian rhythm. You've probably heard of it. It's your body's 24-hour internal regulatory system. It's managed by this tiny structure in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Honestly, just think of it as your body's master clock. When this master clock sees light, boom, it secretes cortisol to wake you up. When it gets dark, it releases melatonin to help you sleep. This biological algorithm literally dictates how much daily energy you have. So whether you're a night owl or an early bird, knowing your natural chronotype is step 1 in protecting that rhythm and keeping your creative energy high all day long.
So how do we optimize this? Well, we look to protocols popularized by experts like Andrew Huberman. Step 1 is simple. Get 10 minutes of natural sunlight within 30 to 60 minutes of waking up. Step 2, get some light movement in. And step 3, okay, this is the tough one for a lot of us. Delay your caffeine intake for 90 to 120 minutes. Why? Well, you need to clear out whatever residual adenosine, that's the chemical that makes you feel sleepy, is still floating around in your system. If you chug coffee immediately, you're just masking that sleepy chemical, and trust me, it comes roaring back later. This biological hack is exactly what prevents that dreaded afternoon creator crash. You know the exact feeling, right? It's 3 p.m., you're staring blankly at your timeline, the clips are just blurring together, and you have zero motivation to finish editing. Delaying your caffeine stops that dead in its tracks.
Section 2. Morning exercise and caffeine, fueling the engine. Which brings us to the fun part. Fueling that creative engine with morning exercise and, yes, your eventual cup of coffee. You see, physical exertion and chemical intake directly dictate your cognitive focus. Check out this number, 23.4%. A comprehensive clinical study found a 23.4% increase in learning concentration among students who did just 30 minutes of moderate morning exercise 5 days a week. We're not just talking about getting a good sweat in, it's hardcore neurobiology. Physical exercise triggers the release of BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. What that does is facilitate neuroplasticity, essentially your brain's ability to rewire itself and learn. It quite literally primes your brain so you can master new editing skills, learn complex formats, and just crush intense creative tasks much faster later on in the day.
But what about when it is finally time for that coffee? Well, I have to ask, are you a fast metabolizer? Because genetic differences completely change how our bodies respond to coffee. Fast metabolizers, folks with the CYP1A2A/A gene variant, clear caffeine out quickly and get that clean, sharp focus we all want. But slow metabolizers, those with the C/C or A/C variants, process it much, much slower. For them, caffeine acts as a massive stressor. It overstimulates the body's main stress response system, leading to severe cortisol spikes, prolonged anxiety, and just general stress. If coffee leaves you jittery, overwhelmed, or anxious instead of focused, your biology might actually be telling you to adjust your intake. You've got to protect your mental health to protect your creative output.
Section 3. Setting the visual stage, the physical studio.
Okay. So we've got your internal biological studio firing on all cylinders. Now let's optimize your external physical filming environment. The absolute gold standard of video production is the 3-point lighting setup. You've got your key light, which is your primary bright source, your fill light to soften up those harsh shadows, and your backlight to separate you from the background and add a nice sense of depth. But here's the thing. Using soft, diffused light isn't just about looking pretty. It literally controls the viewer's emotional response. A well-lit, natural look subconsciously invites trust and engagement from your audience. On the flip side, poor lighting yanks viewers right out of your story. Their brains end up focusing on the weird shadows instead of your actual message.
But hey, maybe you're on a super tight schedule, or you just don't want to drop thousands of dollars on lighting gear. Well, 2026 offers an absolutely incredible technological shortcut: AI avatars. Platforms right now let creators use perfectly lit, gesture-controlled digital doubles. These avatars map exactly to your physical movements, and they inherently maintain a flawless three-point lighting setup without you ever having to flip on a single physical switch or rig a camera. It is a massive, game-changing shortcut for scaling up your output while keeping your visual quality totally top tier.
Section 4. Mastering Pattern Interrupts, the Digital Output. Now we are shifting our focus entirely over to the digital realm. We're going to take that biological understanding of human attention we just talked about and apply it directly to video editing. Because the reality of the modern social media algorithm is honestly brutal. Data shows that in the first 3 seconds of a TikTok, a whopping 65% of users will decide to scroll away. Your viewer is literally sitting there in an autopilot state, just mindlessly swiping without even thinking. You have exactly 3 seconds to snap them out of it.
So how do you survive that 3-second threshold? You use a pattern interrupt. This is a strategic visual or auditory disruption. Think a sudden zoom, a fast jump cut, or maybe an animated text pop-up. Remember how we were talking about human biology earlier? Well, our brains are hardwired by evolution to detect sudden changes in our environment as a survival mechanism. When you drop in a pattern interrupt, you are literally hacking the viewer's cognitive automation. You're activating their attentional alerting system and forcing their brain to just stop and pay attention to what you're showing them. It is quite literally leveraging evolution for algorithmic retention.
And the contrast in the data is just massive. Videos edited without pattern interrupts sit at a sluggish 28 to 35% average retention. But when you strategically drop in a pattern interrupt every 3 to 5 seconds, average retention completely skyrockets to between 50 and 65%. You are almost doubling your watch time simply by stopping the viewer's brain from getting bored. And honestly, a 3 to 5 second interrupt doesn't have to be some crazy, overwhelming explosion. It can be a quick B-roll punch-in, a subtle cash register sound effect, a slight color shift, or even just a dynamic text highlight. It's just enough to reset the brain's focus.
But here is the absolutely crucial point I need you to remember. Pattern interrupts are the vehicle, not the destination. They are incredibly powerful tools for hacking the algorithm, for sure, but they absolutely do not make up for a poor narrative. If your content lacks actual value, viewers are going to leave anyway, no matter how many fancy sound effects you throw at them. These editing tricks are strictly there to amplify a genuinely valuable message that you've already put the creative sweat into crafting.
Section 5. Driving Action with CTAs, the Final Conversion.
Which brings us to the final step of our workflow. We've optimized our body, we've set our stage, we've hacked the algorithm for retention. Now we've got to transform that highly retained audience into actual, measurable business results. Here's the 2026 checklist for mastering your calls to action, or CTAs. First, pick exactly one single goal per reel. Do not confuse your viewer by asking them to like and comment and subscribe and buy. Just pick one. Second, write a CTA that perfectly matches that goal. Say, asking a highly specific question to drive comments. Third, put that CTA on screen twice. Throw it in as an early tease and then again near the end. Fourth, test 2 CTA versions. Why is A/B testing so critical for 2026 algorithms? Because algorithmic platforms now heavily reward hyper-specific audience triggers. Testing save this for later versus bookmark this tip could yield a massive difference in conversion, based purely on the psychology of your specific demographic. You have to find what works for them. And finally, measure the specific metric tied to your goal. This is a highly actionable blueprint you can literally run on your content this week.
We have covered some incredible ground today, haven't we? From the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain all the way to retention graphs on TikTok. And I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you optimizing your content or just optimizing yourself? Because as we've learned, you can't truly maximize one without the other. To be a high-performance creator, your biological wellness and your digital strategy must be perfectly aligned. So what routine are you going to overhaul first? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I absolutely can't